All right, hey everybody. Today we're going to talk about the Jefferson years as president and how he really changes the office from the Federalist period that had been before. Our central questions are: what's the Revolution of 1800? What underhanded task does Adams carry out before he leaves office? And what marks the end of the once dominant Federalist Party? Okay. So, talking about the Jefferson years. So, there's two men that are going to run for president that are from the same party. So you have to remember this is before we had primaries, um, such as it is today. So you could have multiple people run from the same party for president. And the election of 1800 included this type of election where you had multiple people in a party. So it says this election is really odd. You need to remember that there's going to be several in the future that are going to be problematic. This is the first one. So the election of 1800. So Thomas Jefferson is going to be running against a gentleman by the name of Aaron Burr for president. Both of them are Democratic Republicans. For our case, we could just call them Republicans. Okay, so these two gentlemen are going to run against each other. There are others that are running too, but you'll see that these two are the ones that get the most votes of all of them. So they're going to run against each other. Aaron Burr, you need to know a little about him. Let me show you some pictures. Here's the first one, and this is Mr. Burr. He is from New York, okay, and he will make a living from developing a law practice. He actually practices law for a while with Alexander Hamilton, also a New Yorker. He has a pretty successful law practice. Later on is named Attorney General of the state, and then later after that runs for Senate and will eventually try to run for President of the United States here. He's like one of those people who doesn't really get along with others well. And so you'll see that he has a lot of run-ins with George Washington. He served in the Revolutionary War, Aaron Burr did, and had a falling out with Washington. Washington reprimanded a certain general, and Burr fell on the side of the general and argued against Washington, and there are other instances. So Burr doesn't get along with Washington. That should tell you something about Burr. He also is not really going to be friends with Thomas Jefferson. Okay, so they're not really going to see eye to eye either, except the fact that they're both Republican. So there's going to be a tie in the Electoral College. And if you know your civics, you should know that any tie in an election is broken by the House of Representatives by a vote by them. So if there's a tie in the Electoral College, the House will make the decision as to who the president will be. So you see here, Jefferson got 73 votes, electoral votes. Burr got 73 electoral votes. Adams got 65, Pinckney got 64, and John Jay gets 1. So basically, these three are out, and it's up to the House of Representatives to decide should Jefferson be president or should Aaron Burr be president. Okay? So you also have to consider that whoever they decided would be president, also whoever was second runner-up, whoever was the runner-up, second place, would be vice president. So that made things interesting. It says the tie was broken in the House of Reps. A majority of the people in the House were Federalists, so they're not going to really be too excited about either one of these candidates, being that they are Republican. But majority are Federalists, and they break the tie by voting in favor of Jefferson. Now, this is a several months long debate that goes on in the House, and finally they come to a consensus that Jefferson will be the president. Hamilton stands up in the House and urges his followers not to vote for Burr specifically. And he says he considers Jefferson to be of higher character than Burr. All right, so you need to know this about Hamilton. Hamilton does not like Aaron Burr. Jefferson and Burr don't really get along too well either, but Burr and Hamilton hate each other. Okay, there's a lot of spite there. Hamilton, remember, is a Federalist, so Burr's not going to like him for political reasons and others that we'll get to a little bit later. But anyway, Hamilton's going to stand up and say, look, the lesser of the two evils is Jefferson. At least he has a high character. Let's vote for Jefferson. And that is what happens. Okay, so Burr is going to be named the vice president under Jefferson. So that's kind of interesting. It says Revolution of 1800. First time of peaceful transition from one party to another. So we're going from the Federalist Party now to the Republican Party. And you'll see Adams going out of office, Jefferson going into office. They will meet at the White House, shake hands, and you will literally see the transition of power from one party in the White House to the next. No fighting, no infighting, no arguing, literal peaceful transition. Why is this such a big deal? Because in other nations during that time and even today, when you see a change in power in a nation that does not have a democracy, is often with bloodshed and, war and horrible coups and things happening to remove the one guy so the other can come in. So we don't have that in America. And that's why this first transition is so important, because it set the stage for many, many more. All right, so I have a little card here that says Revolution of 1800, okay? And I'm going to mark out the word revolution in red, because you need to know it's still called the Revolution of 1800, but you need to know that, in fact, it's not so much a bloodshed revolution as it is a peaceful exchange from one party to the other. And that's what I have on this card, peaceful change from the Federalists to the Democratic Republican. And I didn't have enough room, so you'll forgive me, but Federalist to Democratic Republican. So peaceful change is the Revolution of 1800. All right, so then after that we get really smart and we pass the 12th Amendment to the Constitution. Now you remember how amendments are proposed and how they could be passed. So we will have that accomplished to have the president and the vice president together on the same ticket. I call this, you get one, you get the other one. So 1, 2 makes 12, okay, in history world. So 12th Amendment, you get the president and the VP on the same ticket, which is what we have today. Okay, so we have a nominee for the Democratic Party who picks a VP to run with them. And if you get that Democratic candidate as president, you get their VP choice. It is not like this where the runner-up, the loser, becomes VP. Imagine what that would be like today. Okay, so that's a good thing. Jefferson is going to, as president, make a lot of changes. So you have to keep in mind, he's a little bit like Batman, okay? What he's going to do here is he's going to be a supporter of the people, not a supporter of the wealthy, rich elite, because he is a Democratic Republican. So he's going to look at the farmers, the working class, the people like that, and he's going to support them. And so he's going to make a lot of changes to support the people that are his people in his party. So it says he replaces half of the government workers with Democratic Republicans. He will cut back the size of the military. So he reduces the military. He encourages free trade and gets rid of the excise tax. Okay, like on whiskey. All right, he gets rid of the tax. He hated that whole thing to begin with. He reduced the national bank created by Hamilton. Okay, so Hamilton is not going to be happy because remember, Hamilton up here spoke on behalf of Jefferson to get him elected. So Hamilton's not going to be happy about the fact that his buzz is now being reduced by the man that he basically helped put into office. So you can think of Hamilton here as more the Superman to Jefferson's Batman. Okay, there are moments when they work for each other and help each other out, like Hamilton did for Jefferson. And then there's moments when Batman doesn't play so nice, okay, and hates Superman. So he will reduce the national bank created by Hamilton significantly, helps the South get more involved in politics for sure, and names only Democrat Republicans to his cabinet. This is a big deal. Washington had a mixture of people. Remember, Jefferson was one of them. Jefferson was on Washington's cabinet and was not a Federalist. But Jefferson gets rid of that whole idea where the whole cabinet becomes whoever your party is. Okay, John Marshall becomes Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and he, in fact, strangely, is cousin to President Jefferson. So you would think Marshall would be on Jefferson's side. In fact, he's not. He's appointed by Adams, so that means Marshall is also a Federalist, even though his cousin Jefferson is a Republican. Adams decides in his anger that Jefferson has won the office to basically pack the court, add all these Federalists to the bench of the Supreme Court at midnight, like right prior to midnight before his final term was up. Okay, and this is where we get in the term judicial review. So you remember this case from civics basically said Marbury versus Madison, Jefferson wanted to block Adams' last minute appointments. Jefferson says, no, 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 he can't do that. I know he's going out of office, but at midnight he cannot pack the court with all these justices that are Federalists. So he orders Secretary of State Madison not to give the judgeship commissions to these judges, not to allow them to serve. One of them was William Marbury, who sues for his commission, saying, I got appointed by Adams, I should be able to serve. The case, Marbury versus Madison, goes to the Supreme Court in 1803, and Marshall says Madison had the right to sue, but the congressional law was unconstitutional. So he ruled the law was unconstitutional. Marbury could not be given his commission. So Adams' plan, his ploy there doesn't work. They're not put on the court. And now we have the precedent of judicial review, that judges can review any law they see as unconstitutional and throw it out. All right, last thing, Aaron Burr and Hamilton. So here we have Burr, who's lost the election of 1800, but becomes VP. That's crazy. So he becomes the vice president, even though he lost the election, remember. And you see, Jefferson is going to run for a second term. He does not choose Aaron Burr. Okay, not nominated by the Republicans for a second term as VP. That tells you again they're not getting along. Burr's angry at all that. He develops plots to become governor of New York, to join with New England and secede the Union. Okay, Hamilton and his Federalists decide we need to defeat Burr as governor because he will take, New York out, or New England out of the United States, start a whole war. So he helps to defeat Burr for governor. So Burr is not too happy with Hamilton. Hamilton's not too happy with Burr. And Burr challenges Hamilton to a duel in 1804. As a result of political infighting, insults, that kind of thing. Also, there is a historical fact that Hamilton's father-in-law was defeated for the Senate by Burr, and that didn't sit well with Hamilton either. So Hamilton dies in the duel. Burr shoots and kills him and is hated by many, and this marks the end of the Federalist period. So, good for Batman, not so good here for Superman. So the end of the once strong Federalist period when Hamilton is killed by Burr in the duel. You'll learn more about this in the station. Couple of pictures. Here's the House of Representatives map from the 1800 election. Thought you'd find it interesting that North Carolina voted for Jefferson. Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island voted for Burr. Some states did not vote. Here is our man Thomas Jefferson, who becomes president in 1800 and serves a second term. Revolution of 1800 I was talking about, first peaceful transfer of power. And Jefferson tries to simplify, small up government, walks to his inauguration, answers the White House door. Okay, gets rid of the excise tax. All right, so go back, answer your essential questions, and we'll talk later.